Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're talking about something a little counterintuitive. Usually when we talk about speed in tech, shipping features, getting to market, we're talking about engineering, funding, breaking things fast. We almost never talk about the brakes.
Right, because the assumption has always been that the brakes are just there to stop you, to slow you down.
Exactly. Governance, policy, compliance. They're almost dirty words in a lot of fast-moving companies. The Department of No.
But I've got a report in front of me that completely flips that narrative.
Yeah.
It suggests that if you want to move fast in 2025, especially with AI, the boring stuff is, well, it's actually your engine.
It is a really surprising take, but the data is all there. We're looking at the state of AI security and governance. It's a huge 2025 survey from Google Cloud and the Cloud Security Alliance, the CSA.
And they talk to a lot of people for this.
Oh, yeah. Around 300 IT and security pros. So this is, what's really happening on the ground, not just what we think is happening. And before we get into the numbers, and some of them are pretty wild, I just want to say a huge thank you to our partners at cloudassist.vibehack.dev. If you're listening and wondering if your own setup is ready for this AI wave, you should really go check them out. They're helping make this deep dive possible.
So let's set the stage a bit. It's 2025. We are, for the most part, past the initial hype cycle.
Mostly, yeah. We're not just, sending funny prompts to chatbots anymore. We're trying to do real work with this stuff.
Correct. We're in the operational phase now. And this report identifies this massive divide opening up.
And it's not just the companies using AI versus those who aren't.
No, it's way more nuanced than that. It's a divide between what they call the governance haves and the governance have-nots.
The maturity multiplier. That's the term they use, and I love it.
That is the core concept.
Yep.
The whole thesis is that governance isn't red tape. It's a multiplier. The organizations that actually sat down and did the hard work, the policies, the guidelines, they aren't slowing down. They're accelerating.
Okay, let's dig into that, because I think a lot of people listening might be skeptical. The classic view is, if I have to wait for legal to approve something, I'm losing time.
Sure. But it's about confidence. It's about knowing the rules of the road. The report found that organizations with comprehensive AI policies are nearly 2 times more likely to adopt what they call agentic AI.
2 times. What are the numbers there?
It's 46% for the ones with policies versus just 12% for those with policies still in development.
Wow. Okay, that's a huge delta, 46 to 12. But let's pause on agentic AI because we hear that term a lot. What does it mean in this context?
We're talking about autonomous or semi-autonomous systems. So not just things that retrieve information, but AI that can actually take action.
Like execute code.
Execute code, modify databases, trigger workflows, that sort of thing. The report is saying that almost half of the governance mature companies are already trusting AI to do things, the ones without rules. They're stuck down at 12%. They're basically paralyzed.
Because they're just afraid of breaking something important.
Precisely. Think about it like a busy intersection. If you suddenly turn off all the traffic lights, does traffic move faster?
No, of course not. It just gridlocks. Everyone inches forward because they're terrified of getting hit.
That is the perfect analogy. Without the traffic lights of governance, you get hesitation. You get what the report calls shadow AI.
Shadow AI. That sounds dramatic, but really it's just employees going rogue with their own tools, isn't it?
It's that, and it's worse. It's developers pasting proprietary code into a public chatbot because the company hasn't given them a secure alternative.
Right. Or marketing teams just swiping a credit card for some new tool without any vetting.
Yeah. And the mature companies, their governance doesn't just say stop, it paves the road. It says, here's the sanctioned, secure sandbox. Go nuts.
So by building the fence, you're actually defining the playground and making people feel safe to play in it.
And you empower them. Now, this is another stat that just jumped out at me. 65% of these governance-mature organizations are actively training their staff on AI.
Okay, and what's the number for the other group?
Just 27% for the ones with only partial guidelines.
Well, that makes sense. You can't really train people if you don't know what the rules of the game are. What are you teaching them? Good luck. Don't get us sued.
Exactly. You're just leaving them in the dark. And that creates a massive skills gap.
Which brings us to a really interesting point in the report about who is actually leading this charge. Historically, security teams are, let's be honest, the last to the party with new tech. They're usually cleaning up the mess years later.
That has always been the pattern. Security is reactive. But with AI, we're seeing what the report calls an inflection point. Security teams are actually becoming the early adopters.
That feels unlikely. Why would the most risk-averse people jump on the riskiest new technology first.
It's a matter of necessity. The bad guys are already using AI. You just can't fight an automated attack with a spreadsheet and a human review anymore.
So they're basically forced to use AI to fight AI.
They're becoming power users. Get this, 90% of respondents said they're either testing or planning to use AI for threat detection, for red teaming, access control. 90%.
That's basically everyone.
That's the whole industry.
And red teaming, just for our listeners, that's basically hiring hackers to attack yourself to find the holes, right?
Correct. And it's traditionally slow and expensive. But with AI, you can automate it. You can have an AI agent just constantly probing your systems 24/7.
And that leads right back to that agentic idea. The report said 19% of organizations are already using these agentic security tools.
Yes, and another 47% plan to adopt them within the next year.
So within 12 months, you're saying nearly 2/3 of companies are planning to hand over some defensive autonomy to an AI.
It's a fundamental shift in trust. Security isn't just the Department of No anymore.
And in some places, they're actually driving the innovation. The report found that in 13% of organizations, the security team is actually responsible for AI adoption across the entire company.
That's the big plot twist. If the number one barrier to adoption is risk, then who better to manage the rollout than the people who live and breathe risk every day?
That's a great point. They build the safe architecture so the rest of the business can innovate on top of it.
Right.
So let's talk about the actual tools they're using, because the vendor landscape feels a little bit like the Wild West. Or maybe it's starting to settle down.
It's consolidating massively. The Wild West phase is kind of ending. We're now in the era of the Big Four.
Okay, before we name names, I want to give a quick shout out to our other sponsor, CISO Marketplace.Services. Speaking of this vendor landscape, if you're a CISO trying to figure out which tools are legit, having a dedicated marketplace is a lifesaver, so check them out.
For sure. So the Big Four. The report breaks it down by usage and evaluation. OpenAI is, well, it's the 800-pound gorilla.
What's their number?
70% of organizations are using or evaluating GPT models.
70%. That is just staggering market penetration.
It's dominance. But Google's Gemini is strong at 48%. Then you've got Anthropic's Claude at 29% and Meta's Llama at 20%. And after that, it just drops off a cliff.
You know, this looks so much like the early cloud wars, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud.
It's the hyperscaler effect all over again. But here's the really interesting nuance. Companies aren't just picking one and sticking with it.
So you're not just a Google shop anymore?
Not for AI, not yet. The average organization is using 2.6 models.
2.6, so they're mixing and matching. Why?
It's a multi-model strategy. Maybe you use GPT-4 for, your most complex reasoning tasks, but you use a local Llama model for something that needs to stay on-prem for privacy.
Right tool for the right job. But doesn't that make the engineering a complete nightmare?
Oh, incredibly so. And it brings up a huge risk that I think a lot of leaders are overlooking. Vendor lock-in.
Yeah, we've seen this movie before.
Exactly. But with AI, it's even stickier. A prompt that works perfectly on one model might just hallucinate on another. If you build your entire workflow around one API's quirks, switching isn't just copy-paste. It's a full re-engineering project.
And if 70% of the industry is relying on just one company, I mean, that's a massive single point of failure for the whole digital economy.
The report really highlights that resilience concern. We are putting a lot of eggs in very, very few baskets.
Okay, so we've got the tools consolidating, security teams are leaning in.
Yeah.
What about the bosses? What's the view from the boardroom on all this?
Well, this is what I'd call the boardroom paradox. The report had some data from 2024 showing that 82% of executives were pushing hard for AI adoption. Get it in here now.
Pure FOMO, fear of missing out.
Total FOMO.
Yeah.
But then when you ask about their confidence in actually securing it, 72% of the respondents in this survey were either neutral or explicitly not confident.
Wait, hold on. So 82% are flooring the gas pedal, but 72% are admitting they have no idea if the brakes even work.
That is the disconnect. Leadership is demanding speed, but the confidence in the safety gear just is not there. And a big reason for that is that the funding is a total mess.
Follow the money. So who pays for AI security?
That's the problem. Nobody seems to know for sure. The report shows it's all over the place. 49% say the CISO pays, 36% say the CTO, 33% say the CIO.
That math doesn't add up.
Nope. Because in most companies, everyone is chipping in a little bit. It's a shared responsibility.
And we all know what shared responsibility means in corporate speak.
It often means no one's responsibility.
Yeah,
exactly. If everyone thinks someone else is handling the budget, you get gaps, and gaps are where the bad things happen.
Is there any good news on the org chart front?
There is one bright spot. While deployment is scattered everywhere, 53% of organizations now say that the security team is finally owning the actual protection aspect.
Okay, so at least we're starting to agree on who to call when it all goes wrong.
It's progress.
Let's talk about that, things going wrong. When you ask these professionals what keeps them up at night, what are they most worried about? Is it, Skynet?
No.
No.
It's much more mundane. And frankly, it's a little bit like they're fighting the last war.
What do you mean by that?
The number one risk, cited by 52% of respondents, is sensitive data exposure. Number two is regulatory compliance at 50%.
Okay, so basically, I don't want my customer list to leak, and I don't want to get sued.
Pretty much. And look, that makes sense. We have spent the last decade being terrified of data breaches. It's muscle memory. We're treating AI like it's just another database.
But it's not a database. It's not static.
Yeah.
It acts.
And that is the massive blind spot this report exposes. The risks that are specific to the model itself, to the AI's behavior, are way, way down at the bottom of the list.
Give me an example of a model risk.
Prompt injection, tricking the AI into ignoring its safety rules. Only 5% of organizations listed it as a top concern.
5%. But we see people doing that on social media every single day.
I know. Model theft, also just 5%. Because it hasn't resulted in a huge Equifax-level headline yet, companies aren't prioritizing it. They're focused on securing the data, but they are not securing the behavior.
That distinction feels incredibly important, securing the behavior.
Think back to the agentic AI. If you have an AI that can access your email and send invoices, just checking if the data is encrypted isn't nearly enough. You have to ask, why did the AI send that invoice? Was it tricked? Is it hallucinating?
Right, the data could be secure, the connection could be secure, but the action itself could be malicious or just wrong.
Exactly. And the analysis in the report suggests that this focus on data over model manipulation is a really dangerous maturity gap. The report calls for adaptive reasoning-based defenses.
Which sounds like fighting fire with fire again. You need an AI to watch the other AI.
You do. You need a system that understands intent, not just keywords. A firewall sees traffic. An AI defense needs to see a prompt and say, that looks like someone is trying to manipulate our financial model, even if all the words are spelled correctly.
It really feels like we're in this major transition phase, moving from AI as a toy to AI as infrastructure. But the security mindset hasn't quite caught up yet.
That is the big takeaway. AI is becoming the plumbing of the organization, and if you treat the new electrical system like it's just old pipes, you're going to get shocked.
So if I'm a listener right now, what's the one thing I should do with this information?
If you feel bogged down by policy, try to flip your perspective on it. This data clearly shows that policy is the launchpad. If you want to use those cool agentic tools and be in that innovating 46%, you have to build the governance first. It's not red tape. It really is the maturity multiplier.
I love that phrase, build the rails so the train can go fast. And hey, if you need help figuring out where you are on those rails, don't forget our sponsors, cloudassets.vipac.dev, and for the tools to secure it, CISO marketplace.services. They really do make these deep dives possible.
Absolutely.
Before we wrap, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. After digging through all this, what's the one scenario that's really sticking in your head?
It goes back to that disconnect we just talked about. The fear of data leaks versus the almost complete lack of fear about model manipulation. We're all rushing towards AI that does things.
Agentic AI.
Right. Okay, so imagine an AI agent. It has perfect encryption. It never leaks a single user password. It's 100% GDPR compliant. It checks every single logs.
Okay.
But it gets hit with a prompt injection attack hidden in a PDF from a vendor, and it deletes your entire production database because the attacker convinced it that it was just cleaning up some old temporary files.
Wow. So it followed every security rule, kept every secret, but still destroyed the entire business.
Exactly. Our data-first security mindset protects the secret, but does it protect the action?
Yeah.
As we hand over more and more agency to these things, I think that's the real question for 2026.
An AI that keeps your secrets but deletes your company. That is definitely going to keep me up tonight.
Sorry about that.
No, it's good. It's what we need to be thinking about. Listeners, check your governance. Are you building a fence or are you building a launch pad? Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you on the next one.